first at 9. This is Other Derana 24/7.
In your headlines tonight, Sri Lanka achieves yet another milestone in irrigation projects. Sri Lanka to regain GSP+, Premier says a victory for the entire nation. AG appeals against Raviraj verdict. Over 1,000 dengue cases reported during just the first 10 days of the new year. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Other Derana 24/7 News. Starting off with the local stories, the European Commission has proposed to grant its GSP Plus concession to Sri Lanka and increase market access for Sri Lankan products to the European Union region. A statement from Brussels said today that the European Parliament and the Council now have up to 4 months to raise potential objections before measures become effective.
The European Commission statement said that the decision comes in exchange for Sri Lanka's commitment to ratify and effectively implement 27 international conventions. EU Trade Commissioner Cecilia Malmström said, quote, "This also reflects the way in which we want to support Sri Lanka in implementing human rights, rule of law and good governance reforms. I'm confident of seeing timely and substantial further progress in these areas, and the GSP Plus dialogue and monitoring features will support this reform process," unquote. These one-way trade preferences would consist of the full removal of duties on 66% of tariff lines, covering a wide array of products, including textiles and fisheries. Sri Lanka was formerly a recipient of the GSP Plus facility until in 2010, the EU decided to stop the preferential treatment, citing Sri Lanka's failure to address alleged human rights violations. Later, in July 2016, Sri Lanka reapplied for GSP Plus. The Commission's assessment has concluded that Sri Lanka met the GSP Plus entry criteria set out in the EU regulation. At the same time, the European Commission statement goes on to say that more needs to be done to improve issues of concern. It calls on Sri Lanka to ensure that counter-terrorism legislation is fully in line with international human rights conventions. The European Union region remains Sri Lanka's biggest export market, accounting for nearly one-third of Sri Lankan global exports. In 2015, total bilateral trade amounted to 4.7 billion euros. EU imports from Sri Lanka amounted to 2.6 billion euros and consisted mainly of textiles as well as rubber products and machinery.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe said the EU's proposal to grant GSP Plus is a result of the government's continued commitment to ensure human rights and democracy in the country throughout the last 2 years. Issuing a communique, the Premier cited the achievement is not only a victory for the government but also for the entire nation. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs welcomed the European Commission's proposal recommending to the EU Parliament to grant GSP Plus to Sri Lanka. Acting Foreign Minister Dr. Harsha De Silva spoke to Other Derana following the EU decision.
Positive application now moves to the European Council and the European Parliament, which we believe would have no objection, and thus within 2 to 4 months, Sri Lankan exporters will be able to utilize GSP Plus. This is a huge boost to the export industry. Independent research had shown that we suffered heavily because we were unable to leverage what the other countries were benefiting from, that is free access to the European market. We lost thousands of jobs, many factories closed down, and more than that, we failed to take the opportunity to expand our exports to Europe. All that becomes now possible because 66 tariff lines will see complete removal of duties of the exports into Europe. So it is indeed an acceptance of the European Union of our plan to improve human rights, rule of law, and good governance. We know that it is a long-term obligation for us to continue good governance in this country to benefit from GSP+. So we become the 9th country in the world to benefit from this free access to the European Union. Now it is up to our exporters to revitalize their exports, open new factories, give more jobs, and fully utilize the trade concessions we've got into Europe.
The ceremony to mark the release of the maiden waters of the Moragahakanda Reservoir commenced today under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena. The Moragahakanda Kaluganga irrigation project is known as the largest multifunctional irrigation project in Sri Lanka. The Moragahakanda Kaluganga Development Project is a major component of the Mahavali Master Plan with $5,557 allocated for the project. The project is currently under construction across the Ambang River at Alahara. Later, President Maithripala Sirisena participated in the inauguration of the Alahara Water Canal, which is 103 kilometers in length. This becomes the longest water canal in the country. A total of 6.5 billion rupees has been allocated for the project. The combined projects involve the construction of the Moragahakanda Dam and Reservoir, along with the separate Kaluganga Dam and Reservoir for irrigation and power generation purposes. The project is expected to improve irrigation facilities to more than 80,000 hectares of water-scarce farmlands and, most importantly, to open up 5,000 hectares of new land for agriculture development in northern, north-central, eastern and northwestern provinces. The project will generate 25 megawatts of hydropower to the national grid. Speaking here, President Maithripala Sirisena said that the Moragahakanda project will end the sorrowful story of Rajarata farmers. He said today will be remembered as the happiest day of his life. The president added that he will find solutions to problems in the country and will also fulfill his responsibilities amidst challenges to make the country a prosperous nation. The Attorney General has filed an appeal against the Colombo High Court judgment on the murder of former TNA MP Nadaraja Raviraj, seeking retrial. The AG's move comes in the wake of a special jury acquitting all suspects in connection with the murder of the former MP. A special jury of the Colombo High Court released 5 suspects on December 24, 2016 on the grounds of lack of sufficient evidence. High Court Judge Manilal Vaidyatilaka delivered the verdict of the months-long trial. In his appeal, the Attorney General pointed out that information presented before court during the trial was insufficient and that the prosecutors were distressed as the verdict came shortly after midnight. Prasad Chandanakumara, Gamini Kumara, Pradeep Chaminda, Sivakandan Vivekanandan and Palaniswamy and Xavier Royston Christopher Hussain were the accused in the murder of Raviraj. 3 of them were naval intelligence personnel and the other 3 ex-LTT cadres of the Karuna faction. The accused were charged on 5 counts under provisions of the Prevention of Terrorism Act and Penal Code. Former MP Nadaraja Raviraj was murdered on the 10th of November 2006 by unidentified gunmen and died upon admission to hospital. Police bodyguard Sergeant Shanta Lakshman Lokuella also died in the shooting. Nadaraja Raviraj, representing the TNA, was elected to Parliament in 2001 from the Jaffna district and was re-elected in 2004. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa today tweeted that he will regain power when people of the country are ready. A live Twitter question and answer session was carried out this morning, allowing participants to ask questions on the social media platform with the hashtag AskMR. Responding to a question about the strategy he would follow for the upcoming local government elections, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa said that they will be ready with a plan and a powerful joint force. When asked if he will contest against President Maithripala Sirisena in 2020, the former president said that it is the time for the future leaders of the country. Referring to a question about local issues, he said that there are doubts about intentions behind the amended constitution since a clear picture has not been placed before the people. Furthermore, when asked about the ETCA agreement with India, Rajapaksa said he is against it as job safety of Sri Lankans will be in danger without solving existing issues in the agreement. Mahinda Rajapaksa also commented on his last visit to China. He said that the reason behind his visit was to request the Chinese government to implement projects in Sri Lanka according to initial agreements without displacing people and harming the environment. Answering a question whether the Chinese ambassador was displeased with some of his anti-Chinese comments, he reacted that it was not true and that it was a cordial discussion. Commenting on foreign policy of US President-elect Donald Trump, Rajapaksa said that he hopes Trump will lead the US with a new foreign policy that will respect the sovereignty of nations, unlike previous administrations. And we have a bit of alarming news. Now, 1,000 dengue cases have been reported in Sri Lanka during the first 10 days of 2017. According to the epidemiology unit of the Health Ministry, the highest number of cases continue to be reported from the Western province. It is also reported that there are no deaths during this period due to the viral disease. Now, meanwhile, Health Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne has advised a National Dengue Control Unit to increase programs for dengue prevention and mosquito control. 22% of mosquito breeding areas have been found within school premises across the country. Health officials identified mosquito breeding places in 667 schools. Legal action has been initiated against 81 of these schools. National Freedom Front states that the party's leader Vimal Weerawansa is being held for aiding and abetting under charges of financial misappropriation and misuse of motor vehicles, which is a similar allegation faced by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. A deputy leader of the National Freedom Front, Weerakumara Dissanayake, said this during a media briefing in Colombo today.
It is mentioned in the COP committee report that it was Ranil Wickremesinghe who gave instructions in the treasury bond scam. It was Arjuna Mahendran's testimony. Vimal Weerawansa is being held for aiding and abetting under charges of financial misappropriation and misuse of motor vehicles. But for him, those charges have already been proven. If these charges are relevant to Vimal Weerawansa, Mr. Wickremesinghe, the allegations you face are relevant as well. So you will be remanded. People were saying that Vimal has a deal with Wickremesinghe. Now this is the deal.
On a deal.
Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Power and Renewable Energy Ajit P. Pereira reacted to questions raised by journalists regarding the arrest of former Minister Vimal Weerawansa.
The
one who purchased these vehicles was Ridma Vimukti Veerawansha, that is Vimal Weerawansa's elder sister's son. Then there is Lalit Pushpakumara, that is his sister's elder son. Ananda Ashok Kumara is Veerawansa's wife's elder sister's husband. Ananda Priyadarshana is Veerawansa's younger sister's husband. Dilani Veerawansha is Vimal Weerawansha's younger sister. The issue was first relieved when Weerawansha was minister. It was through an internal audit carried out in the State Engineering Corporation in 2014. The current government has no reason to take legal action against any politician without a reason. The law should be implemented regardless of their state of any citizen in the country.
Meanwhile, speaking at a media briefing in Colombo today, Professor G.L. Peris claimed that there is no use of President Maithripala Sirisena rejecting the UNHRC report now. Professor Peris said that soldiers of our country are in danger as a result of the short-sighted measures taken by the government. He said that the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights began investigations against Sri Lanka and it was a completely partial investigation. He questioned as to how they obtained evidence, pointing out that names and other information of witnesses have not been revealed for 30 years. There are certain conclusions given by this report, and the Sri Lankan government accepted these recommendations as their own. The government of Sri Lanka accepted the report as their own and invited all the other countries to cooperate. Professor Peris said that President Maithripala Sirisena says that he rejects the report, but there is no point.
ස්ත්‍රී දූෂණ කළා. ඒ වගේම උතුරු පළාතේ ජනතාව
Welcome back in business news tonight. Cabinet has approved the issuance of $1.5 billion worth of development bonds in 2017 to strengthen the government's borrowing program. Now, Cabinet spokesperson Gayantha Karunatilaka spoke further on the decision during the weekly Cabinet media briefing in Colombo this afternoon. Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Harsha De Silva says the government is planning to leverage the country's geostrategic position to reposition Sri Lanka as an Indian Ocean hub. The Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs made these comments at a public forum titled The Indian Ocean in Singapore. Deputy Minister Dr. Harsha De Silva addressed a public forum organised by the Institute of South Asian Studies of the National University of Singapore. Dr. Silva spoke on the theme Sri Lanka's role in the Indian Ocean and the changing global dynamic. He explained how the government is planning to leverage Sri Lanka's geostrategic position with historic and new trading partners. During the forum, Harsha De Silva had also emphasized on the need for wise foreign policy related to the region's geopolitical situation. Still in business news, we have RM Sivananda from the Colombo Stock Exchange to give us the stock market update.
The benchmark all-share price index gained 31.95 points to close at 6,184.54. While the S&P Sri Lanka 20 index gained 40.76 points to close at 3,503.07. The turnover was 1,116.35 million rupees with 19.62 million shares changing hands in 3,284 trades. The market capitalization at the end of the day was 2,726.14 billion rupees. Top 5 gainers of the day were Amanata Kaful, Rambada Falls, Haley's Fibre, Colombo Trust Finance and Citrus Vaskaduwa. While the top 5 losers were SMB Leasing Non-Boarding, Lanka Aluminium, Udapusalawa Plantations, Madalsima Plantations and Asia Asset Finance. Today there was a crossing and the crossing turnover was 50.4 million rupees. Today's foreign purchases was 38.29 million rupees and the foreign sales was 941.72 million rupees.
Let's now take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other currencies. .23-year-old Thikshila De Silva, the uncapped batting all-rounder, is named in Sri Lanka's squad for the T20 series against South Africa. A spell of dengue before Christmas slowed down Lasith Malinga's efforts to regain match fitness, leaving him unavailable for the T20 internationals and ODIs in South Africa. The series is due to get underway at the Centurion on January 20th. Left-handed Thikshila is yet to win an international cap in any format of the game. He is largely being picked on potential and on his reputation as a clean striker of the ball with 218 runs, 15 boundaries and 15 sixes at a strike rate of 144 in the domestic tournament. Left-arm wrist spinner Lakshan Sandakan, who has played 3 tests and an ODI, is the other new member of the T20 squad. Manchester United booked a place in the EFL Cup's second leg after struggling with a resilient Hull City defence in the first half of the match at Old Trafford in Manchester, England. The second leg will kick off on January 26th.
In the second half, goals from Juan Mata and Maroon Fellaini secured Man United a first leg win, elevating the club to the second leg. Mata got the breakthrough in 56th minute when he tapped in from Henrik Mkhitaryan's knockdown. Substitute Fellaini scored the second goal for Man United in the 87th minute by heading in from Matteo Darmian's cross. With the win, Man United boss Jose Mourinho moved a step closer to a major trophy in his first season with the world's most popular football club.
Loop it into the back of the Hull City goal, and Manchester United now have breathing.
The first quarter-final match of the President's Cup Inter-Schools Under-19 Invitation Football Tournament was held at the City League grounds this evening. The clash was between De Mazenod College Kandana and Holy Cross College Kalutara.
In the third minute of the match, Shivant Ashan scored the first goal for the Macedonians through a strong run from the corner. Ashan Gunasekara scored the second goal at the 52nd minute for the Macedonians through a free kick from the mid-right. Although the Holy Cross strikers did fight hard to score, the agile defense of the Macedonians prevented them from scoring.
In international news tonight, widely popular but politically humbled US President Barack Obama said goodbye to his nation after 8 years of service as one of the strongest leaders in the world. During his farewell address, he declared that he hasn't abandoned his vision of progressive change. However, he warned that democracy will be threatened whenever American people take it for granted.
1,000 people attended the farewell address at Chicago's McCormick Place, in the largest convention center in North America, and a venue for Obama's speech after he defeated Mitt Romney in the 2012 election. His voice, at moments catching with emotion, Obama recounted a presidency that saw setbacks as well as success, particularly referring to his healthcare system, Obamacare.
The unemployment rate is near a 10-year low. The uninsured rate has never, ever been lower. Healthcare costs are rising at the slowest rate in 50 years. And I've said, and I mean it, if anyone can put together a plan that is demonstrably better than the improvements we've made to our healthcare system that covers as many people at less cost, I will publicly support it.
Admitting candidly that political discourse has soured under his watch, Obama demanded that Americans renew efforts at reconciliation.
Protecting our way of life, that's not just the job of our military. Democracy can buckle when it gives in to fear. So just as we, as citizens, must remain vigilant against external aggression, we must guard against a weakening of the values that make us who we are. And that's why for the past 8 years, I've worked to put the fight against terrorism on a firmer legal footing. That's why I reject discrimination against Muslim Americans, who are just as patriotic as we are.
During his farewell speech as the 44th US president, Obama's voice quaked when describing his wife's service. It is being considered as one of the most emotional farewell speeches a US president has made.
Malia and Sasha, under the strangest of circumstances, you have become two amazing young women. You are smart and you are beautiful, but more importantly, you are kind and you are thoughtful and you are full of passion. And you wore the burden of years in the spotlight so easily. Of all that I have done in my life, I am most proud to be your dad. Yes, we can. Yes, we did. Yes, we can. Thank you. God bless you. May God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you.
And on that emotional note, we wrap up tonight's news on Ada Derana 24/7. Thank you very much for your company. For the very latest 24 hours a day, just log on to www.adaderana.lk or like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Good night.
This is Ada Derana, and you're watching Ada Derana 24/7.